Your Excellency, I guess you know who the musician is when he puts the microphone too close to his mouth. For a minute I thought I was about to start singing. But Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure, it's an absolute pleasure to be here today at the Africa Prosperity Dialogues. I had a very, very long speech, even though I was told to give a short remark. But I can see a lot of people who use the same assistant I use, which is ChatGPT and Claude. And I saw that almost all the points I wanted to speak about has already been spoken about. So I think the organizers really did a good job in putting me where they put me and saying, yes, Mr. Eazi, we want you to give a remark, and that's what I'm going to do. So this is going to be the shortest remark. I've spent my career in the past 10 years collaborating across Africa, and that experience has taught me a few things, very few things that I will put into three things, and which is number one, Africa's greatest constraint is no lack of talent, which we all know. At the same time, it is no lack of ambition, speaking as a young entrepreneur and creative. But the biggest problem we face is friction, and this is why this is important to me, and this is why I'm speaking today. I'm going to speak about friction for a second. In the last 10 years, I've spent 6 of those years as a singer touring the world, and 4 of those years, doing a lot of entrepreneurship. And 2 things remind me. I remember when I was 2 things. One, I remember that in the first 6 years, on the first 2 years of me blowing up, it was easier to tour America and tour Europe than tour Africa as a singer. So whilst I had the biggest songs, those who know. Whilst I had the top #1 songs in Africa, it was harder for me to tour. And I remember 2 occasions, one of me going into Kenya with my band, and even though I'd been paid to perform, I was stopped at the border. And whilst my band, which had other nationalities, could go in, I, who was the lead artist, who was paid the most money, had to wait at the border. And I remember telling the immigration, I said, well, I've been paid, so if you want to send me back home, I'm going to be on the next flight. But that speaks to the reality of the friction that is being put in place and stopping us from uniting, and stopping us from being stronger, and stopping us from developing. Now, in the last 4 years of my career, I've spent that as an entrepreneur, solving the problem that exists, solving this frictional issue that exists as the roadblock in making Africa borderless. And I've invested in businesses that are now live in 19 African countries, of which one of which I'm really proud of is a company that is live in 19 African countries and processes 4 million transactions a day. 4 million transactions a day. Borders as they currently function create friction in movements, in payments, in regulation, and in the abilities of small and medium-scale enterprises to scale. This friction is felt the most by us, the youth, artists, creators, influencers, SMEs, women, and young Africans who not only want to better their lives, but contribute to the shared prosperity of our continent. But yet, Africans continue to collaborate across borders anyway, because cooperation to Africa is not new, it's natural. African cross-border collaboration in economics has started pre-colonialism and has continued even today. And I stand to tell you today that the young people under the age of 35, we actually don't care about borders. And we do this via collaboration, via the internet, via cross-border collaboration in business and in creativity. The idea of borderless Africa began as Pan-African philosophy, but today through regional blocs and the AfCFTA, it has become an economic necessity and an emerging reality. Much of the vision already exists, the treaties have been signed, the frameworks are in place. What remains is the important work of implementation. So when we speak about making Africa borderless, we are not speaking about removing nations or weakening sovereignty. No, we are speaking of enabling the commitments already made and allowing people to move, trade, and build within Africa more efficiently, securely, and lawfully. A more connected Africa is how SMEs grow into continental champions. At least that is how my companies have grown, starting from one African country to existing in 19 countries and counting. It is how women and youth fully participate in the single market, and it is how Africa strengthens its collective competitiveness in the global economy. Now more than ever, if we look around the world, we will see that it is important for us as Africans to become united, not just in ideology, not just in business, but in action. We must remove every friction that exists within the confines of the law. And when Africa moves together, we do not lose strength, we multiply it. The Africa Free Continental Trade Area promises to be one of the largest, if not the largest by countries, bringing together over 3 trillion in GDP. And so I say, if we make Africa borderless, Africa becomes unstoppable. And speaking of the collaboration, today I just released a new song with a Ghanaian artist speaking about Pan-African collaboration. And I would encourage you to go out and look for the song. It's called That Way. And I leave by saying, make Africa borderless now. Thank you.